Well, welcome everybody. We have a really exciting, fun morning for you today. Several weeks ago, I went to a fundraiser for PCLA, Parkinson's Community LA, where they had a comedy show. And the headliner was Arsenio Hall, who was terrific. But also terrific was this man, Jimmy Burns, who has Parkinson's. But I'm not going to introduce Jimmy yet. First, I'm going to talk briefly about laughter and the benefits of laughter. As you know, dopamine, every time you laugh or you smile, you get a dopamine hit. So when you laugh, you feel better, right?
Yeah.
Except it makes me shake. But anyway, so doing an afternoon of comedy was a natural thing to do for people with Parkinson's because we all need to laugh. We all need that extra dopamine. So we decided 10 o'clock in the morning is okay too. I know it's not a great time for comedians, but they're here. So let's welcome we actually have two special guests today. I'm going to introduce Bob Siegel, who is otherwise known as Papa Robbie, who is the care partner to Marilyn, who has Parkinson's. And Bob believes that you're never too old to have fun. And with 6 kids, 7 grandkids, and an artist wife, he never runs out of material.
Wow, that's very true.
So, and I'm going to turn it over to Papa Robbie, sorry. And then you will introduce Jimmy at the appropriate time. So,
well, thank you, Sharon. So I should clear something up at the top. I'm really not a care partner. I'm certainly not a caregiver. I'm kind of more like a care supervisor. See, the way I see things is the world is divided into 2 groups, right? There's those who do the work, and there's those who supervise. Doing the work can be hard. Supervising, not so much. So I'm kind of proof that you can have an entire career without actually doing really anything, but supervising. So for the last 20 plus years, I've been a senior manager at several of the largest public accounting firms in the world with all sorts of international clients. And the funny thing is, not only am I not a CPA, I've never taken an accounting class. Truthfully, I can barely add, but I can supervise. And that's kind of how it works with Marilyn, is that, she does the work. She does the boxing and all the exercise and the PT and taking her meds and everything. And basically, I just supervise. So understand that, like, I try to be a caregiver, a much more hands-on caregiver. She would tell you that every single day I offered a shower with her, every day. She always says, no, I'm good. I can do it. So, the thing that we go through a lot is we try to always talk about, like, well, I mean, there's obvious Parkinson's symptoms, of course, but there's a lot of things we go like, is this really Parkinson's or is this just getting older? So, for example, Marilyn would sometimes forget, like she'd start to leave the house and she'd say, oh, I forgot my keys or I forgot my sunglasses or whatever it might be. So I said, hey, you know what? Why don't we make a checklist? Put the checklist by the door, sort of like a pilot has a checklist. Then you go through and say, oh, do I have those things? But the thing is, I use the checklist too, right? I go into the other room and go, why did I come in here? So I'm not sure which it is. Now, the thing that was interesting was when we first went to Marilyn's neurologist, to the movement doctor, and they asked all those, they did the clinical exam, and they started asking all those questions, right? So the doctor would say to Marilyn, do you cook? And I'd say, no, I do all the cooking. And she'd say, oh, well, why is that? Can you not cook? And no, she can, but I've always done the cooking, right? I like to cook. Why is that a problem? And the thing is that then, we went through the list of questions and she asked about compulsive behavior. And she said, do you have, any compulsive behaviors? Why? Like, well, do you do excessive shopping or gambling or sexual desire? And I'm like, well, can we pick which one we want? No, that did not go over well. But the thing is that some of the things are older, like, for instance, getting ready for bed, right? So we were younger, you'd wash up, brush your teeth, go to bed. Now that we're older, and nothing to do with Parkinson's, but we have to wear these sleep socks because our feet get cold, and we have to wear these braces on our arms because we have carpal tunnel syndrome, and wear a mouth guard so you don't grind your teeth, and nasal dilators so you can breathe easier. And soldiers wear less gear to go to battle than Marilyn and I wear to go to bed. And then, sometimes you get in bed, you get in the mood. And then the truth is, by the time we get all that gear off, we're too tired to do anything, And on the odd chance that we're not too tired, it's been so long, we've pretty much forgotten what we're supposed to do, So it's just everything changes when you get older. And it's like, when we were younger back in the day, Marilyn would say to me, hey, you want to come in the bedroom and help me undress? And I knew what that meant, right? Now I know it means she needs help removing her compression socks, so there we are. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thanks. Now I get the great honor of introducing former elementary school teacher turned comedian, great Jimmy Burns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Let's break this wall down. Hello, my name is Jimmy. This is wonderful to be here. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And you really got it going on. You got a website and blogs, and this is great. This is wonderful. So, my name is Jimmy. Before we talk about the Parkinson's, get to know me a little bit. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. Thanks for the love.
Thank you.
Moved out here. Did you know how expensive it is out here? Give me an example. If you don't understand, I owned a house in Omaha. Owned it. Sold it, moved out here, put a down payment on a car. 2009 Ford Focus. Been married 17 years. Not in a row. That's cumulative. Those who are in the slow reading group, that means altogether. I was in the dating world briefly, and things change. Everything changes. Even my priorities. When I was a young man, looking for a woman, I looked for legs, and hello. But as I got older, now the woman I'm with, not so much. She has a house. She doesn't have legs and ass. She has assets. So, I did teach school. Might wander back to that. Let's talk Parkinson's. I had no idea what Parkinson's was. I had completely ignorant, which is the lack of knowledge. It's just no experience. Now I had relatives, my dad, my Uncle Charlie, who had heart attacks, strokes, no Parkinson's. So I used to be a runner. I completed like 9 marathons. It was my zen. It was wonderful. And then when I was running one day, I was in front of a grocery store or something where I could see my reflection in the window. And my left arm wasn't swinging while I was running. It's just hanging. I thought, whoa, that's weird. Come on, dude, get with the group. And then a couple of months later, I started tripping over my foot. And so some comedian said, you're going to go to the doctor now. Otherwise, we're going to shame you in public. So I went to the doctor and I went for my primary first. She didn't do anything. She sent me to a neurologist. First thing I had to do was to learn how to spell neurologist. The primary care doctor sent me to the neurologist. The neurologist sent me to an MRI. That I could spell. Thank you, sir. So a week later, the neurologist says, you can come back, we'll give you results. I said, okay. So sitting there, and he said, Mr. Burns, you have not had a stroke. And I went, yes, amen. And he goes, I believe it's Parkinson's. I said, what? You mean I'm like Michael J. Fox? And he said, no, he's famous. So I had to learn about Parkinson. Oh, the TV, they have commercials for different medications. And one of them said, 50% of Parkinson's patients will suffer from hallucinations. 50% will suffer from What'd I say? Hallucinations. So, ladies and gentlemen, attitude is a choice. I'm not suffering from anything. I'm looking forward to the hallucinations. You know how much money I can save on edibles? Yes, there's a laugh. So my brothers hate that joke. They hate it. They're 7 years older than I am, 6 and 7, and very conservative. One lives in Houston, one lives in Omaha, Nebraska still, and I'm out here on the left coast. Matter of fact, I'm so liberal, I got a progressive disease. And you talk about symptoms, so random. It's like somebody put them on a big wheel and you're born or something. You go, there, this one's one right here. Tick, 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 tick. Constipation. Oh boy. Let's try it again. Tick, 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 tick. Loss of bladder control. I'll take constipation. And one of the other symptoms is loss of smell, losing your sense of smell. Pre-COVID. So my lady, she has to have proof sometimes. Because I said, I've lost a sense of smell. Oh, have you really? I don't think so. Well, we came home one afternoon, and the neighbors had just put a full, fresh layer of manure on the lawn. You're living it right now. And I said, and people are just walking around going, oh my God, this stinks. Oh, how do I put it? Oh. And I said, guess what? I bent over. Nothing. She goes, wow, you lost your sense of smell. I went, I know. I usually don't have notes, but my brain has gone from high-speed internet to about to call. What's it called?
Dial up.
Dial up. That's support.
Back to AOL.
That's support. Oh, yeah, okay. Try this. Boop, boop. Mine, I don't have the obvious tremors. I'm more of a slow, stiff thing happening. Stiff everywhere except where I want to be. Yes, that's that too. I'm so afraid of falling. And I don't want to be reminded of it. It'll be autumn for me for the rest of my life. It'll not be called fall. Autumn. If you're in my house, you say autumn. No fall. Oh, nah. I was thinking, I don't think you want to hear that. So, different aspects. My girl, my lady, she helps me with my coat sometimes, help me get it on, my shirt, whatever. And she had her hips replaced. Not at the same time, 6 months apart. That would be weird.
Yeah.
So I got to help her a chance. She said, can you help me with my socks? I went, sure. So now I'm on my knees, hung up her socks. And I started giggling. And she said, what are you laughing at? And I said, remember when we were young and we used to help each other take our clothes off? So when it first got diagnosed, I told her, this could get ugly. You didn't sign up for this. If you want to go, you go on your own way, just go. And she said, I'm not going anywhere. I said, really? She went, this is my house. I should stop there. But
No, keep going.
I'm going to talk about, yeah, you guys are fun. Thanks. The little audience that could. Okay, so some of my teaching stuff and we're between Mother's Day and Father's Day now, so it always brings up wonderful memories. When I was a young boy, a little man, I wanted to be just like my dad. Just like my dad. He wore baggy pants and tennis shoes and was bald. So far, so good. He smoked. He had drank bourbon. And if I was in the room, he'd give me a little sip and say, if your mother walks in, tell her we're having communion. He smoked. So my mom, she was boring. Horribly boring. She didn't smoke, she didn't drink, all she did was go to church. My dad died of a heart attack at 58. My mom lived to be 90. After further review, I'm like, just like my mom. We had her till she was 90. We were blessed. She was fun. She was one of the first ones that had the motorized cart. Because we're talking 20 years ago, something like that. And have you noticed the old people talk like kids in the sense of loud? They're louder. So she was a good patient, but she was a horrible driver. She would be going down the hallway at home going, hurry up, you move too slow, get out of the way, hurry up, you move too slow. And I said, Mom, back off. The woman is using a walker. She took hints from NASCAR. It's tough to make ends meet on a fixed income. So she took tips from NASCAR. She got sponsors. You could see the decals right on her cart there. AARP, Depends, Viagra. Her oxygen tanks had Red Bull. So I don't know if you've been to a home like this. My mom's, that's what I relate to. The big event of the day, every day, was dinner time. They get dressed up. They go stand in line. Dinner's at 5. The doors open at 5, but they would stand up and wait at 4:15. Had to get the best seat. So I visited Mom. She said, "You want to go to dinner with me?" And I went, "Mom, that'd be great." She said, "We're late." I said, "Oh, sorry." She said, "Follow me." So we went. She's motorizing down there. We come around the corner and the hallway is just filled with people. Canes, walkers, just packed in. So we just get at the end of the line. We wait. 5 o'clock hits, the doors open, they're off. My mom, though, pulls a Jeff Gordon, makes a move to the wall and starts passing everybody. The woman with the walker is drafting behind her. Now everybody is getting mad, they get pissed. So they try to give them the finger, but because they're arthritis, it looks like they're throwing down gang signs. That's enough. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
So,
Hello.
hello, thank you. Both of you, how did you get into comedy? You were a teacher,
Yes.
and what prompted you to do stand-up?
Let's see. Do we want to be honest?
Well,
Well,
it's up to you.
coming out of Nebraska, I always loved Johnny Carson. Well, I think everybody's of age that knows who Johnny Carson is. Yeah. Johnny Carson was a talk show host before Jay Leno. So I loved that. I loved watching them. I loved comedy. Oh, I loved it when my family would laugh. When my Uncle Dave would come over and Uncle Charlie and the families, they would laugh and it just felt so good. I'm not saying it wasn't alcohol initiated, but I'm saying it was wonderful. I loved it. And I wanted to match that in my life. And as a teacher, though, I also felt children are more open when they're smiling. Actually, adults are too. And lessons go in instead of being, you're not going to teach me or anything.
That's the dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and nothing was happening at home, so I thought I'd go out and get some attention.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. So that's how I got into it.
Many decades ago, I was in New York and I was writing for MTV at the time and some other stuff. And they were having auditions for hosts for their first non-musical show that they wanted me and my partner to write. And so basically they were having these auditions. They were doing these open mic things at Catch a Rising Star in New York, which doesn't exist anymore. And they said, hey, would you want to, we're having this showcase, do you want to be on it? Now, I was actually out here meeting with people and trying to sell work and stuff. And I didn't have an act. I'd never done anything. And my agent called me at the hotel on Thursday and said, remember how you said maybe one day you'd like to try stand up? Tuesday night, Catch a Rising Star, put 10 minutes together. So we did. And it went really well. Susie Essman, some of you may know from Curb Your Enthusiasm and other stuff, was the MC that night. And I went and did it, and I came off stage, and the manager said, hey, that was a really good set. How come I've never heard of you? And I said, well, that was my first time on stage. And he said, well, if that's the case, I'll give you a weekend slot. And unfortunately, my ex-wife was not supportive. And in fairness, we did have 3 little kids, which would soon be 4 at home. And I was running a company. And so we lived on the Jersey Shore and commuted into the city for work. So I did it for a while. I'd do it on Thursday night, which was stupid. And but it just, I couldn't sort of do everything. And then we sold the script and I had to go do that full time. So I basically put it away and had my career in media and entertainment and all that. And then basically we were talking about it, and Marilyn said to me, you keep saying one day you'd like to do it. Like they're having a class at Santa Monica College Extension. Maybe go do it, and then just go sort of get back into it. And the big payoff was that the graduation show would be at the Improv. So I thought that'd be another good credit. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I did that past couple of weeks, did the thing, and then went well. And so I felt on a high. So then I ran out to Flappers 2 days later and auditioned, and they said, hey, you're really pretty good. So they immediately booked me for 3 dates. So I was just sort of off and running. And that was just a year ago.
So good for you.
Yeah.
So
Very
do you incorporate being a care partner into your act normally, or you?
No, usually, I mean, I talk about it in the context, basically my act, I talk about the kids, frustration about how the kids parent the grandkids, talk about the grandkids, and about my life with Marilyn, and basically getting older. So some of it is in there, but it's in there in the context of being older rather than specifically about Parkinson's.
Jimmy, when did you continue to do stand-up after your diagnosis?
I did some for a couple of years, but I didn't get people. They were supportive in the sense of, but some people do. Did you make that up? Did I make it up? Why would you make up having Parkinson's? And it's like, I just thought you wanted to do it for an act. No. Anyway, yeah, I did for a while, but when COVID hit, I pretty much stayed home.
I think everybody did for a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's where the break came,
Mhm.
and then I just got back into it.
So you didn't do any stand-up at all for a while?
Yeah, for a while, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to get COVID, and I didn't know how the Parkinson's would react to the thing. It's just another thing to add in there.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be there. And in all honesty, I want to see. Thank you for being in a Parkinson's group. And the show we did, the Improv, was very supportive and wonderful. Because I don't know if I can sell. I don't know if I can do the Parkinson's stuff to regular people who don't come in to see it. You guys know what's going on. Audience, the Improv knew what's going on. But to go into an audience cold, talk about Parkinson, I'm almost getting there. We'll see. Oh,
Excuse me.
I think you
Somebody
could.
calling?
I'm trying to get your cough drop.
Oh, thank you.
Should I be drinking be a little bit louder? Just
Okay,
Louder.
louder if we can. We
Sure.
can move that a little closer. But,
I think you could, because I think you can talk about, it's your life, it's your reality. So I
Right.
think you absolutely could, because there are been plenty of other comics that have other infirmity and they talk about that on stage. And, one of the classes I took with the woman who runs Flappers, she was talking about that. One of the guys in the class was a vet from Iraq,
Okay.
who has 2 artificial legs, I think, below the knee. She wears shorts. And she said, that's cool, but you have to address that in your first joke, because everybody's going, okay, what's the deal?
Right.
So I think you absolutely could. It's different for me doing it because, I'm just helping her take care of her Parkinson's. That's a whole different thing. I think you could probably do it generally and people would be okay with it. but that's your reality. I think audiences totally accept it, and the stuff you do is, it's funny and it relates to it. So I think you should.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes.
Do we have any questions in the chat? Okay, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will get to them. Anybody here have questions for either of our speakers? Speak up.
One of the symptoms, right? So you restarted your career a year and a half ago.
A year ago.
That is amazing, first of all. Just the fact that you could get up, go do it, and be funny. I hope my other question for later.
Oh, that was the question. Okay, I thought there was something I thought that was the setup. to the
Waiting,
question.
yeah.
It didn't just, it wasn't just once in a while he'd do it. Every day he was trying to further himself in the comedy career.
I wasn't necessarily performing every day, but writing. That's the thing. You gotta constantly be writing. And I have a background as a writer. And so, good.
In terms of New York and LA, did you travel around?
No, it's interesting. We actually just we're in New York a couple of weeks ago for is it my grandniece? What's the right word? Great niece. My great niece's bat mitzvah. And I grew up on Long Island. And I have a group of childhood friends that during COVID, I started a Zoom call. So we need to do something for laughs. And 5 years later, we still do it every Monday night. Marilyn's great astonishment says, what the hell do you guys have to talk about for 3 hours every week? I don't get it. But my friend said, hey, there's a comedy club on Long Island. Why don't you see if you could get booked? Because then we could see you live. And I thought, oh, the family will all be there. So I did. And they said, well, we don't have a show, but how many people do you think you could bring? I said, probably 20 or more. And they're like, okay, we'll open up a room and we'll book some other comics. So I ended up bringing 30 plus people, and the room was sold out, and I did 18 minutes, and nobody threw a tomato, so I guess they were pleased. But I haven't really toured and stuff, and part of it, frankly, in my mind, is I can't realistically just like go on the road. First of all, it really doesn't pay much, right? Unless you get to that big level where you're doing theaters and such. But the other part of it is, frankly, what I'm hoping to work up to is that Marilyn and I have gone on some cruises and we like that. So my thought was, could I get booked being a comic on a cruise ship? Because then we travel as guests and then we could vacation for free. So that's literally, I already have the name of an agent. And I spoke to him and he's like, when you have an hour's worth of material, call me and you'll send me a clip and we'll go from there. And I'm at that point now. So that's good.
You won't get your vacations only free. You'll get paid.
Exactly. So a little fringe benefit.
You'll come home with a check.
That would be nice. Yeah, the club was so appreciative, actually, right before I went on. Show was way too long, but before I went on, they handed me an envelope. And he's like, hey, there. And I had no way. I said, okay. And I put it in my jacket. I went up on stage and I did my act. And when we got back to the hotel, I opened it and there was $300 in it. And I'm like, wow, okay, this was a pleasant surprise, Yeah, it's like anything, it wasn't like I said, I want to be an Olympic, swimmer. It was something I'd done. And so I was like, and that was literally what the Booker Flapper said to me at the audition. He goes, are you just doing this to see if you could still do it? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, good news, you can still do it. So are you going to be around the next couple of months? I'll book you. It's like, awesome. I mean, there we go.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have to love it.
Yeah, and you talk about the dopamine thing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've been very fortunate in that the only time I arguably bombed was in New York, and the MC said, don't even worry about doing an act. I said, what do you mean? And he said, the entire audience is a group of Chinese tourists who don't speak English. So like, why would you come to a comedy club? I mean, if I went to Beijing, I don't think I'd go anyway, but it's an amazing high when you're doing it and people are laughing and you're like, this is, it's a dopamine rush. And then frankly, you get off stage an hour later, I'm like depleted, you know, because you get really up for the show and the adrenaline's all going and everything. And it's a terrific feeling. It really is. It's just really nice. And for me, you know, I like to say that I haven't had a good night's sleep since I became a dad. And, you know, that was 1982. So it's like the same thing. I mean, frankly, part of the thing is I try to anticipate, right, for Marilyn. So it's like, oh, honey, there's a step there, or a thing there, and maybe you want to hold on there, or the thing there. And so the nice thing about being on stage is I'm not thinking about any of that. She's sitting down there and I know she'll laugh. So that's good. And it's, in that sense, it's also a great stress reliever for me, you know. Plus she's my editor, basically. You know, I wake up in the morning and go, so which way's funnier? And she goes, oh my God, can we have breakfast first? You know.
Like you guys to briefly introduce yourself again, just in case they enter the meeting a little later. So you can have Wiseman briefly introduce yourself again. Appreciate that.
Sure. Hello. In there. My name's Jimmy Burns. I used to be a school teacher. Now I'm a comedian. Now I got Parkinson's. I almost said hemorrhoids.
Hey, it's another symptom.
Yeah. So we're down here having fun, and it's a wonderful thing. My name's Jimmy Burns. There you go.
And I go on stage as Papa Robbie, and I have an Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Real Papa Robbie. My real name is Bob Siegel. I'm married to Marilyn, and I'm a dad of 6. Well, technically, I guess dad of 4, stepdad to 2, but dad to 6, and grandfather to 7, soon to be 8 grandkids. Yeah.
Wow. I have no children.
Yeah, Trent.
You want to vent some?
Question for couple for Jimmy. One is it's well known that doing stand-up is one of the toughest things to do, and
Yeah.
you have the most fear. And to do it, first of all, I give you tremendous credit for doing it with Parkinson's. And is there anything you used as kind of your distraction, your trick, something to overcome that, so you didn't feel that you were even a greater center of attention and being distracted by symptoms while on stage?
I haven't been doing it as much with Parkinson's. I'm just getting in there, feeling comfortable with Megan and the audience just to feel comfortable with me. If I ever had, I don't know if this is answering your question, if you ever had nerves, I thought I was going to get upset, I would always tell myself, who put you here? You did. You invited this in. You wanted to do it. Let's have fun and do it. And so, and I've worked with some wonderful people, Arsenio Hall and Brad Garrett, George Lopez, Arsenio. So anyway, that's been a gas. It's been fun. You do theaters and talk about the energy. You just lean into it. Oh, it's good. Well, did you have another one? Did I answer the question?
No, you did. There's one other. I was wondering from your time with elementary, did you draw anything from that which you use in comedy now in terms of that sort of the childlike approach or tapping into the kids?
Playful. Donna back there, she always reminds me, have fun. And this is I was working with Brad Garrett backstage. He's getting ready to go on. I just get off. And I said, Brad, thank you. This is my best time of the day. And he went, I'm sorry. But it's true. It was the best. It was a highlight of my day. So prepared for it. Went out, did it. It's fun. Good. Yay.
Any other questions? Anything online? Any questions? Have you done improv? How does improv compare with doing stand-up?
I thought I would go more of an improv way when I first moved out here, because we had an improv group in Omaha, and it's just some quicker and fun and playful, and you have to trust each other. And I didn't go that way. I worked stand-up. Writing, yes, sir. Keep writing, because the buddies I started out with, everybody kind of started off doing stand-up comedy, or that was the area they were going to go into. The guys who wrote a lot are the guys that have their own houses now, bought their houses. They have series, and yeah. So keep writing.
Yeah, one of the things that I read in some of the various books is that, is a quote by Woody Allen actually said that people think that stand-up is a person saying funny things, and it's not. It's a funny person saying things. And when you do these different showcases, you meet a lot of kids starting out who think that being dirty and being kind of shockingly gross or whatever is the same as funny, which it's not. And they always say, well, the hardest thing is to find material. And I'm like, then this might not be the thing for you, because I'm sure you were funny, like you said, even in the classroom, even in things like you'd look at things a certain way, and you kind of have to be able to see the humor in it, right? So I do a bit about, we sort of took the reality of dealing with doctor's appointments right after COVID, trying to get our internist retired and trying to get a new one was a nightmare. You're like paying people off like it's a drug deal. Can you get me in with that doctor? And then the flip side of this is we'd be playing with our granddaughter who got a toy doctor kit and doing it. So basically I'm like, that's a funny bit. This sucks, but she gives a better checkup with her toy doctor kit. And that's a whole bit around that. But it's not like I'm sitting down going, would there be a thing? It's like you look at real life things that happen and you go, oh, that's good. We take the grandkids to the park or whatever. I'm saying, then you're old. So then I do a joke about running around and doing all this stuff for hours with her. And then afterwards, Marilyn says, hey, why don't you, let's do something now just for us. So we went to urgent care. That's the joke. But I'm saying it's like, part of it is you have to be able to have things happen. And then you're like, oh, that could be something, but if you don't see that, if you're just trying to literally come up with one-liners, I think it's way harder. I think it's way, way harder.
The reason I asked is there are improv for Parkinson's classes around. And
Oh, okay.
I've actually gone, Robert Cochran has done a lot with improv.
The yaks thing.
Yeah. Yes, and exercise.
Right.
And you can check out his website. He has you can basically drop in. He's got classes a couple of times a week, and you do all these improv games.
Right.
And it's not, I guess it's different than stand up because you got to think on your feet, because
Right.
every game it's
Right. You're
different.
extending the story. Yes. And
Yes,
that's the whole
and
point.
yeah. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I did 2 years with the Groundlings in New York classes and such. And it's a very different kind of thing. Really good for mental acuity because you're having to be constantly thinking and in the moment and paying attention. One of the things I started getting into now is storytelling. And so I'm now doing that. In fact, I'm doing my first one at Flappers Thursday night. I'm doing, huh?
What is story?
So if you ever seen like The Moth or some of these, literally it's a bunch of people. Sometimes there's a theme and you get on stage and you tell a story. Usually it's a defined time limit. So the one I'm telling on Thursday is about when I was an intern in Washington, D.C. I got to sit in the president's chair in the Oval Office. And it's the story of how that all happened. I just got cast in the thing that's for Father's Day with the group who does storytelling to raise money for charity. And it's going to be in Burbank. And the theme is about fathers. So I'm telling the story of when the LAUSD hired a working porn actress to be a counselor to my daughter and other 13-year-old girls with issues, and how I handled that. So that's a 7-minute story, and there'll be a couple of other people, doing stuff. But it's just sort of another way of, you're not trying to get in as many sort of joke things. You're just telling a story. But it's become a very big thing, The Moth and all these other things all over the world, really. And of course, as a writer, I used to write a column on parenting. Some of you may remember Irma Bombeck.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was like Irma Bombeck, but from a suburban dad's point of view. I had at the time, 3 and then 4 little kids. And so it was like, why does all the food taste better off my plate? That kind of stuff. And I had that for about a year and a half or whatever. So I'm going to combine all those columns and I'm going to have all these stories, and then there'll be my Papa Robbie book.
Yeah.
I was a casting director for
Louder.
many.
Louder.
I've been a casting director for many years, for 27 years at
Wow.
Fox feature film. One thing I can say is you can't teach someone to be funny. I would sit in these sessions where we love everything about this particular actor, but not funny, and doesn't hear, you have to hear the music.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that the instinct is there, because, and the director would always say, I know I can get at it. I'm sure I can. And I thought, you don't understand. You can't. Doesn't hear it. So listening to you tell all of these things, I mean, it's just, it's natural. It's natural that it comes out.
And I think you're right. And I think that's why so often it works the other way well. You have stand-up comics who've gone on to have terrific careers in, acting,
Right.
right? Maybe they're not doing Hamlet, but
Thank God.
right, but there's a long list of comics who have gone on to very successful careers acting. And I think you're right about that. It's a way
It's like
attitude.
you can't teach someone to have good taste. You can walk into a room and you think it needs to be redecorated, and I don't know, I'm sure everybody's had that experience.
Yeah.
You want to do something, but you don't see it the same way that they see it. And, oh my God.
You can teach structure, like joke structure, right? You can teach somebody how to do a setup and a punchline,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be funny or that they can sustain it.
Trent?
It's not much a question as it is an observation or an opportunity. It sounds like when you both talk about the difference between, well, it's just because I'm getting older, or it's because I have Parkinson's. It's with the aging population. I think when you're out there, it's like sometimes it could be one and the same, sometimes it could be particular to one disease, but I think there's this huge opportunity for humor and aging. And just this one session we went to in Barcelona, I think there's a hunger for it. And I think when you come up front with it, it actually opens it up and then everyone kind of just relaxes a bit. And
I agree.
I think there's a huge opportunity for the aging population, of which we're just one part of it. And some of our symptoms are the same. You don't know whether it's Parkinson's or not. And that makes us all just part of an aging group. And I think it's
There's relatability. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've used that several times in blog posts, just, is it aging or is it Parkinson's? I mean, we all walk into a room and go, huh, why am I here? And you have to retrace your steps and think, and then all of a sudden it's like, when you're not thinking about it, the light bulb goes off. But, and there's just so many instances that Joel, my husband Joel would go, Mr. Twitchy would go with me to the doctor, and she'd be asking me about this thing and that thing, and he'd say, but I have it too, I have it too.
Yeah.
And he did, but it was coming from a different place.
Well, I think a part of the thing with Parkinson's, which stunned me as I learned more and more about it, and the training I did for the Parkinson's Foundation and learning all this stuff, is that, it's like, whatever, there'd be like these things, then you're like, I'd be saying that, like, wait a minute, what the hell does that have to do with Parkinson's? It's like all these bizarre, all the iceberg symptoms, right? All that stuff below the surface.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, that could be Parkinson's? Yeah, and it goes on and on and on. Like temperature dysregulation was one of the things that, I'm a big guy, so I'm rarely ever cold, right? But we'd be sitting on the couch and I'd be perfectly comfortable. Marilyn would say, like, it's really hot in here. And then I'm like, well, if you're hot, you're hot. Okay, we'll accept that. But like, seriously? Or the other way around, where I'm sort of warm and she's like, can you give me a sweater? I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's like, it's all in education, but you're right. It's like, which one is it? It's both, either, whatever,
It's good fodder for stand-up.
Yes, that's for
Gives you a
sure.
lot of good things to
Yeah.
talk about.
Because of the commonality, like you
Well,
said.
how many, when you go to a comedy club, how many people are our age?
Oh,
And I go in there in the 20s, I don't even know what half the vocabulary is.
right.
Well, that's true.
It depends where and when. I learned this the hard way. I got booked, a guy who had done some other stuff, a headliner, and he said, hey, would you like to be on my show? It was on Inauguration Day. So what is it, January 20th? And it's a 9:30 show. Sure, I never turned down stage time, right? And Marilyn came and a few. So I say, afterwards, I said, the average age was 26, and it was only because Marilyn and a couple of other people came, because otherwise it was like 23. And they comics all had their friends, and I'm up there talking about my grandkids, and they're scratching their heads, like, what the hell is he talking about? And I learned, like, and I've said to this guy, hey, any show at Flappers that's on a weekend at 7 o'clock, I'm there. I'm not doing 9:30 at the Improv. It's not my crowd at all. That, my peers, my friends, they're not coming out on Tuesday night at 9:30 to a comedy club. Saturday at 7, that works,
Yeah. Joe Rogan? Joe, familiar? He was working at the Ice House for a long time. And he would have Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, which is just what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they go, Joe, we can give you 8 o'clock. He goes, my audience doesn't do 8 o'clock. My audience does 10
Right.
Wednesday. So that's, you got to know your crowd.
Yeah,
Ships are, you'll get adults.
exactly. Exactly. Like, I wouldn't book me on like the Carnival cruise that's with all the 30-somethings who are looking to get drunk. I need to be
They
on
don't go to the shows
Steeborn
anyway.
or on Crystal with people who are my age.
Right.
And then I think I'll do great.
Who also like to get going?
Who may like to get drunk, but they all have kids and grandkids, and they're all dealing with being older and all that stuff. So we'll see, one step at a time.
Any more questions from the audience?
So just bouncing back to comedy and shows, there's a question from Dr. Robert Cochrane.
Yeah.
They're asking about, have you ever thought of doing all the bio script?
Doing,
All the bio script. I think that means all the biography script, like self-writing. Or
Robert's the improv person.
right,
Robert, he can unmute him and see if.
Yeah.
He can
Yeah, an autobiographical film is basically the stories you're both telling are fantastic. And I know if either of you had thought about writing a screenplay based on your life, basically.
Wow. That could be me.
Jimmy Burns story.
That's cool.
I like that. We get Tom Hanks or something. It'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, you saw Michael J. Fox's film?
Yeah, well, that was a documentary.
That's true, but
But I think my thing would be, honestly, I have thought, because I spent many years also before I met Marilyn, I was a single dad. So trust me, there's a sitcom in that. Definitely. And I thought about that at some point of, sort of you collect all these stories and then somebody would say, it's like, this could be a show. But I haven't really thought of it in terms of a movie. Marilyn was liking that idea though, right? But yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff there. Even before you get to this, I think that's so universally relatable. Being a single dad in LA, with 4 kids and a wife who was challenging, an ex-wife was challenging. At one point, you had a fantastic housekeeper who turned to me one day, and it was really quick, and basically said, the kids really need, their mom was out of the picture for a number of years. Didn't have really any contact, or minimal, very minimal. And she said, that you need a wife and they need a mom. And I'm like, well, technically they have a mom thing. And, and she's like, the kids love me. I said, they do love you. That's why I'm so glad you're here. And you need a wife. And I was so thick. I just did not understand where she was going with this. And basically she said, look, I'll make it easy. We should get together. And I'm like, but you work for me. And she's like, if I can't be Mrs. Bob, I can't work here anymore. And I was like, so that could be an episode. I didn't marry her. So she left, unfortunately. But yeah, these things happen.
anything else? Any last comments, words?
I have, what is the nuclear
Oh, yeah.
test tomorrow? So no caffeine all day today, but I'm just saying that out because it's a stress test. And I can't run. I'm getting my knee repaired hopefully on Thursday. Gotta pass the test. Anyway, the doctor said, well, you're gonna do the stress test. And I said, but I can't walk. He goes, well, you can't do that unless you do. And we just went round and round, which came before the egg or the chicken. And I said, I don't think I need to take a stress test. You've put me through some stress already. I don't care if you can match that. Never mind. Anyway, kicking it around.
That's it.
No, I just think, for us, what we try to do is, look, in the beginning, there are a lot of tears, right? When you first get diagnosed, you think, oh my God, this is horrible. And there are a lot of hugging and a lot of tears. And at some point, you sort of make the decision of how you're going to move forward. And Marilyn's attitude and my attitude was, she wants to be able to do as much as she can with the people she loves as long as she can, which is pretty much probably should be all of our attitudes. And we try to laugh as much as we can because it's way better than the alternative and just really have a good time. And, it's just like it's one more thing to deal with. That's all.
Thank you. Keep on smiling.
Yes.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you.
Oh, it's our
Terrific.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Let's bring the slides back up. And let's see. Okay, so our next meeting is in 2 weeks. I gotta find my notes 1 second that we're here. So the next meeting, we are going to have researchers talking about the LARC mutations. If you have the gene mutation, or if you suspect that you might have it because there are many other family members who have Parkinson's, this is really a good opportunity for you to learn more about the LARC2 mutation, how it affects you, what we can learn from it. And it should be very interesting. It's going to be more scientific than most of our usual talks. And then, let's see, let's do the next slide. Okay, I can't see what, 2 years ago in Barcelona, Twitchy Woman sponsored 9 women to come to the World Parkinson Congress who were first timers. Thanks to the generosity of many people in our community, we were able to underwrite this. We are going to be raising money again. And I actually have a link. The money is going through the World Parkinson's Coalition. There will be a link. We have a fundraising page there for Twitchy Women to underwrite the admission. The registration fee.
Mhm.
Hello, Parkinson's. Anyway, so we are hoping to have many more people. It's going to be in Phoenix next May, a year from now, and it's going to be a blast. And I know a number of you were with us in Barcelona. We sponsored 9 women, but we had a group of 48 people. Women with Parkinson's, their care partners, their families. We had a whole big group that came. And it was a blast. Trent was there. Anybody else? Nobody else.
I was there. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. So we're going to do it again. And we're going to put the link in the chat, and it will also be in my emails that I send out starting this week. If you want to help sponsor somebody to go for the first time, it's really a wonderful opportunity to learn all about Parkinson's. You don't want to miss it. You really don't. It's just a blast. And you can challenge Trent to play ping pong there.
Yeah, we need a new winner.
You need a new winner? Yeah, he wins everywhere. So everywhere there's people with Parkinson's, he beats us. Okay.
You should go there and
I
perform.
want to play
Yeah.
ping pong.
You should.
Yeah, we can play ping pong.
Get the knee done. I'll be out there.
You can do
You'll be
it,
out
yeah.
there. Yes, we have ping pong classes. They're great. So, and trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, and if you enjoyed today's program and you feel moved to help us underwrite some future programs, please feel free to donate. I don't have the link right now. I will get it to you hopefully tomorrow. I'm waiting to get the link for fundraising again, but more importantly, we really need people to help sponsor women who want to go to the World Parkinson's Congress, who have never had the opportunity to go and can't afford to go. on their own. So we really appreciate any help that you can give. And I think that's about it. There is a study we talked about last time. A woman named Monique Thunson is doing a study on sex and Parkinson's. So if you are interested, she has a survey that she's got out there. If you're interested, we can put that in the link for that in the chat. And that's for everybody, not just women. And she's from the Netherlands. So I think the deadline for this survey is like June 1st. So you got to get moving on it quickly if you're interested. And I think that's about it.
Sex and,
Sex and Parkinson's.
I say yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a
Thank you.
blast, and we will see you June 1st, I hope. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay.